I'm super excited for this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. This time we talk with an entrepreneur on fire, and he gets us ready to ignite. Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am super excited today. I have John Lee Dumas joining me today, and he's the founder and host of EO Fire, an award-winning podcast with today's most inspiring entrepreneurs 7 days a week. JLD has produced over 1,000 episodes of EO Fire and generates over $300,000 a month in revenue. Thank you so much for joining me.
What's going on, Kirby? I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me. As you can tell, I'm an audio guy. That's why I got the nice little headset here and, the sweatshirt. I'm not as dapper and dressed as you, but I love video as well. I have a face for radio. That's why I usually do audio only, but happy to be here, my friend. We're gonna drop some knowledge bombs.
I love it, brother. Well, hey, man, jump right in here. You clearly have become the voice in podcasting right now. You've created an awesome niche helping entrepreneurs, and I love that. How or when maybe did you know that you had something that was pretty special that you were going to build on?
So I really do think it goes back to my initial aha moments, because that's when I thought, I'd say, a lot of people think they have something special and either comes to fruition or it doesn't. And I've had many things that I thought were going to happen that haven't, both pre-EO Fire and after Entrepreneur on Fire. So, just keep that in mind for sure. But for me, it was driving around in a car, as a commercial real estate agent, not being that inspired by what I was doing and loving these podcast interviews with inspiring entrepreneurs, but then being like, man, like these are the most inspiring interviews and like they're firing me up, but there's only a couple shows and they're just once a week, sometimes only 2 times a month. So like I'm going to work every single day. Like I'm looking to use my commuting time as a way to be inspired and to break out and to find something that I can be passionate about doing. So I went back to iTunes and I did the full search and I'm like, where is that daily podcast that interviews entrepreneurs? And Kirby, it didn't exist. And I said, well, why not follow Gandhi's quote here and be that change you wish to see in the world? And I decided to launch a 7-day-a-week podcast. So that's when I thought I had something special. Wow. Now, immediately, I hired a mentor. I joined a mastermind. And everybody told me I did not have something special. In fact, I was doing something stupid. They were saying, John, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to run. It's not going to work. There's a reason why people do shows that are just one time per week. And I said, listen, I know there's other people out there like me, and if there's only a handful, I want to speak to them because I want this. I know other people must want this. This is what I want to do. So I drove forward, and again, I took a lot of great intel and information from my mentors and mastermind, but I blocked out that with the idea that this is meant to be a 7-day-a-week podcast. And I launched, and here we are, Kirby, well over 3 years later, over 1,200 episodes completed, over 1 million listens per month, generating over $300,000 in revenue every single month as well. So I've turned it into a business that's able to inspire a large number of people, and it's been quite the journey.
Man, you are the master of consistency. I so admire that, and I know a lot of other entrepreneurs around the country do as well. One of the things I've noticed about you is, your website. Obviously, you are there you provide a lot of tools, inspiration, but you're also clearly about it being transparent. You share revenue, you share stuff like that. Why? Why do you do that?
It's a good question. So when I first started getting into like the online entrepreneurship game, I came from a very traditional background. I mean, I was an officer in the U.S. Army for 8 years. I was in corporate finance with John Hancock. I went to law school. I was in commercial real estate, wearing a suit and tie to work every day. Wow. Like, I just didn't really trust the online world that much. I really thought it was kind of potentially full of scammers and just a lot of like fakeness. Just I didn't know. I didn't know any better. But then I stumbled upon who's now become a great friend of mine, Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income. And since 2010, he's been publishing income reports. And I was looking at those income reports and saying, man, here's a nice guy who's genuine, who's transparent, who's showing people in the blogging world how to generate revenue and getting specific about it. I said, if I ever make my way in the online world, like I want to be that inspiration. So for me, when I started making it big in podcasting, I wanted to be the inspiration for podcasters to show them what was working and what wasn't working for me. So that was a huge part of it. And just wanting, again, to show people what I was doing that was successful so they could emulate my success. But then just as importantly, to show people my failures and mistakes so they could avoid those pitfalls. So those are two big things for me. And again, just wanting to be out there and showing people that this can be done by delivering value.
Yeah, and I'm a huge believer in transparency. So it's one of the things that I immediately admired about your website and you in general. So I think that's really cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So, I think we're in the content marketing world. Obviously, I'm trying to create a bit of value as well through this show. But let's say you're starting today, and I know people are asking you this question all the time, but I think there's probably value in it. What advice would you give for someone just now starting and trying to find a voice?
So a lot of people, when they start today and they're trying to find their voice, number one, they look around them, which is good because you want to just see what people are doing well. And then number two, they stand upon the shoulders of giants, I call it, which I did, for sure. When I first started, I was looking at the Pat Flynn's, the Andrew Warners of the world who are out there doing podcasts, interviewing entrepreneurs, and doing it in what I considered a very consistent and powerful way. And like that for me was really important. So doing those things is important. But then you just see people that aren't really getting in deeper at that point and finding their unique voice. So for me, I knew that I wanted to be different than Pat Flynn. And I knew that I wanted to be different than Andrew Warner in a very focused way. So for me, that was doing a 7-day-a-week show. Nobody was doing 7 days a week. It was having a very formatted show. It was asking the same questions every episode. What's your biggest struggle? What's your worst moment? What's your aha moment? The lightning round, because I wanted to have that consistent format. Because again, that's what I wanted as a listener that I didn't see out there. So I think a lot of people are doing those first two things right, but then they're not doing the third thing, which is finding that unique value distinguisher that's going to have them stand out in that crowd. So that's really important to make sure you do look around. You are an apprentice. You're learning from those who have come before you. You're standing up on the shoulders of giants, which we all are, but then you're finding that unique voice within. And that's critical. And a lot of people are missing that step.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I see people miss is really just the consistency. I see so many people where they start out like a ball of fire and then 2 months later they've disappeared. And again, that's where I think you model a great deal of success for people, and so that's awesome. Well, man, you've answered my 3 questions, and I
absolutely.
Appreciate
Let me kind of paint a picture real quick.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, let me kind of paint a picture real quick on your consistency part of it, which I think is so important, is that just picture, like, if you, and let's even not say daily, because daily isn't the key to success, but consistency is, to your point. Like, that word is the important thing. So let's just say you say, hey, every Wednesday, I'm going to release a video show or a podcast or whatever it might be. And you start to build an audience, and then that audience wakes up and they say, okay, it's Wednesday, I got to drive to work, and I'm not excited. It's hump day, it's the middle of the week. But you know what? Kirby launched his show today, his video show on iTunes. So they turn on their computer, they log into iTunes, they go to Kirby's show, and then they click the refresh button, and there's nothing there. And they click it again, and there's nothing there. And then they say, oh, that's a disappointment. And they drive to work being like, man, I was really looking forward to that, and Kirby let me down. Well, next Wednesday comes, do you think that your fan is going to go through all that process? No, like you might have just lost that listener. You might have just lost that viewer. You might have lost that fan. So you need to set up a content publishing calendar, a scheduler, and stick to that. Consistency is key. Consistency on your decision, if that's once a week, twice a month, just be verbal and vocal with your audience and then stick to it.
It's unbelievably great advice and something I'm trying to live. Let's put it that way, right? So that's awesome. Everybody, you answer my questions. I give everybody the chance to ask me one question. So do you have one for me?
Kirby, what is your definition of success?
Man, that's a great question. I think for me, obviously, I think each of us wants to, if you create a business, an adventure like this, you want to create revenue. But I think it's about getting to your why. And for me, the why is to be able to have freedom, not only to travel, which my family, my wife and I really love to do, but also to help people. I think I told my wife one time, it would be nice if we have a relative that, is struggling, that we're in a position where we can just fix it. And sometimes fixing it means writing a check. And so my definition of success, I think, would be to be in a position where I've got us taken care of so that I can take care of others, I think, if that makes any sense.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
What's something that you've changed your mind about in the last 6 months?
What's something I've changed my mind about in the last 6 months? That's a really good question. I think, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a great answer, but one of the things I've done in the last year is I made a commitment to myself to read 50 books. So, and I think I'm on 49, so I'm on my way. And so, honestly, I think I've changed my mind about a lot of things. We have changed the way that we've done accounting in our business, kind of have changed the way I've done goal setting. And so, honestly, probably that's the biggest one. I am a big believer in annualized goals, and just finished a book called The 12-Week Year, and it talks about condensing your goals into smaller chunks. So 12 weeks, you compare the year to each week's a month. And then focusing tactically on what to do in order to reach those goals. I think sometimes we set goals and that's good, but then we don't dig deeper to find out the tactics we're going to have to do, whether it's do a post of a daily podcast, or if it's going to make 20 sales calls or whatever. We have to dig deep tactically. And I guess I don't know if that's changing my mind, but it's enhancing it, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Cool, man. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been really awesome, and I would love to do it again sometime.
Awesome, Kirby. Thank you.
All right. Well, that wraps up another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We will see you next time.
Thanks for watching, but wait, can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it already. The way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe.